Sweden and Norway both have more billionaires per capita than the United States. And yet, luxury brands with loud branding consistently struggle to gain traction across Scandinavia. That's not a coincidence. It's not about money at all. It's cultural, and it has a name. Today, 11 things Nordic people almost never buy, and the real reason behind each one. Stay until number 6 because it's probably in your pocket charging right now. Let's begin. There's an unwritten social code across Scandinavia called Janteloven, the Law of Jante. It comes from a 1933 satirical novel, but the sentiment predates the book by generations. At its core, it says this: you are not to think you are special. You are not to think you are better than anyone else. In practice, this means a strong cultural discomfort with visibly displaying wealth or status. Not a legal rule, not a written policy anywhere, just a shared, largely unspoken agreement, absorbed early enough in life that most Nordic adults couldn't fully articulate where it came from, even if you asked them directly. It simply governs how a purchase gets made, quietly, in the background, long before the purchase itself ever happens. 11 purchases, and the same thread runs through every one of them. Number 1. Anything with a visible designer logo. A logo isn't just a design choice, it's a signal. And in Scandinavia, that specific signal, look how much this cost, tends to be read as a small social misstep, not aspiration. It's not that Nordic people reject nice things. They reject things whose entire function is being recognized by strangers. A well-made bag with no visible branding at all can cost exactly as much as one covered in a logo. Only one of them is actually about the bag itself. Number 2. Bottled water. Nordic tap water consistently ranks among the cleanest in the world, subject to strict quality standards and regular testing. Paying for water that comes free and arguably better from the kitchen faucet isn't just unnecessary. It reads as slightly absurd. Reusable bottles are the default. Buying water in plastic is the exception, not the norm. Number 3. A second car when one household car, or none at all, will do. Vehicle ownership is expensive. Insurance is expensive. Parking in dense city centers is expensive. Infrastructure that makes walking, cycling, and public transit genuinely practical removes most of the argument for a second car, sitting there depreciating for trips that could just as easily be made without it. Number 4. Extended warranties and add-on protection plans pushed at checkout. When something is well-made and built to last, the anxiety these plans are designed to sell, what if this breaks right after the return window, carries less weight. The purchase decision was already made carefully. There's less perceived need to insure against a bad decision that wasn't made carelessly to begin with. This isn't a uniquely Nordic habit so much as a natural byproduct of buying fewer, higher quality things in the first place. Number 5. Anything single-use when a reusable version exists. Sweden, Norway, and Denmark all operate deposit return systems for bottles and cans, commonly called pant. A small deposit gets added at purchase, refunded when the container comes back, typically at a machine found in every grocery store. Return rates in these systems are consistently among the highest in the world. The habit extends well beyond bottles. Disposable anything, where a durable, reusable alternative exists, tends to be treated as a last resort, not a default convenience. Now here's number 6, the one I promised. It's probably in your pocket charging right now. Number 6. The newest phone model every single release cycle. This one isn't tied to a specific law. It's broader than that. It's the cultural resistance to needing the newest version of anything to feel adequate. Here's what's worth sitting with. Upgrading a functional phone because a slightly newer model exists runs against two things at once. The practical Nordic design instinct. Buy well, keep it long. And the Jante instinct against needing visible proof that you have the latest thing. The phone works. That was always the only actual requirement. There's a specific kind of marketing pressure this resists, worth naming directly. Phone release cycles are built around manufactured urgency. A new camera feature, a marginally faster chip, a slightly different edge on the screen, framed each year as a genuine reason to replace something that was working perfectly the day before. A culture organized around not needing to prove anything to anyone is, almost by accident, unusually resistant to that specific kind of pressure. The phone in a Nordic pocket is very often 2 or 3 years old, sometimes longer, and nobody in the room considers that remotely worth mentioning. Number 7. Fast fashion. Bought to be worn a handful of times and discarded. Sweden went further than cultural discomfort on this one. In 2017, the Swedish government cut the value-added tax on clothing, shoe, and bicycle repairs from 25% down to 12%, according to Sweden's tax authority, Skatteverket. The policy exists to make repair the economically obvious choice, not just the environmentally virtuous one. The reasoning behind it is worth naming plainly, because it wasn't framed as an environmental gesture alone. Sweden's finance ministry described the goal explicitly as shifting the household math itself, making it more affordable and more economically rational, to stop the pattern of buying and discarding and start repairing instead. When fixing a jacket costs meaningfully less than replacing it, fast fashion loses much of its appeal on its own, without anyone needing to feel virtuous about the decision at all. Number 8. Loud, flashy vehicles designed to draw attention. Bright colors, aggressive styling, deliberately attention-grabbing design. In a culture actively organized around not drawing attention to personal success, a car built specifically to turn heads works against nearly every social instinct reinforced from childhood onward. A car is transportation. It is very rarely a personal statement. This extends to something worth naming beyond the vehicle itself. A new car purchased primarily as a status symbol, regardless of how loud or quiet its design, carries the same underlying logic. Nordic car culture tends to prioritize reliability, practicality, and efficiency over visible newness or size. A car that's a few years old, well-maintained, and gets the job done is not remotely embarrassing to drive in a culture where the point was never to be seen driving it in the first place. Number 9. Home decor bought purely to look expensive. Decorative objects that collect dust without serving a function. Nordic interiors favor pieces that are either genuinely used or genuinely meaningful. A home is furnished to be lived in, not staged to impress people who visit twice a year. Every object either earns its place through daily use or through a specific, real meaning to the person who kept it. Nothing sits there simply because it looks like the kind of thing a certain kind of person would own. Number 10. Products that can't be repaired and were never designed to be. This connects directly back to number 7 and that same Swedish repair incentive. When the culture and the tax code both favor fixing things over replacing them, products engineered to be thrown away the moment they break, no accessible parts, no repair manual, glued shut instead of screwed together, run against the entire logic of how Nordic consumers are encouraged to buy in the first place. Repairability isn't a niche preference here. It's baked into policy. Number 11, and this is the one that ties everything else together. Anything bought primarily to be seen with rather than to actually use. This is the principle underneath all 10 items before it. Every single thing on this list shares one trait. The purchase's primary value is external, what it signals to someone else, rather than internal, what it actually does for the person who owns it. Janteloven doesn't say Nordic people can't own nice things. It says the reason for owning something needs to hold up even if nobody else ever finds out you have it. That's all 11. Not frugality for its own sake. Not an aversion to nice things. A cultural instinct built over generations that the value of an object should come from using it, not from being seen with it. It's worth being honest about the limit of this list, too. None of this means Nordic households own nothing nice. It means the nice things they do own earn their place through actual use, not through the moment of being unwrapped and photographed. A well-made coat worn for a decade and a designer bag carried once for its logo cost roughly the same amount of money. Only one of them was ever really about the coat. Here's a simple test for your next purchase. Ask yourself one honest question. Would I still want this if I could never show it to anyone? If the answer changes depending on who's watching, that's worth noticing. Not as a reason to feel bad about it, just as information. The same way noticing any other habit is information before it's anything else. There's a quieter benefit to this filter that tends to surprise people once they actually try it for a few weeks. Purchases that pass the test, the ones you'd still want with nobody watching, tend to get used far more than the ones that don't. An object bought mainly to be seen with gets photographed once, and then quietly stops being interesting, because its entire job was already finished the moment someone else saw it. An object bought because you genuinely wanted it for yourself keeps doing its job every single day nobody's looking, which turns out to be nearly every day there is. Tell me in the comments which of these 11 is hardest for you to give up. Which one hit closest to home? Meet us in the comments and tell us. I'll see you in the next one.